When we talk about aging, we often speak about it as if it were something that suddenly happens to us one day, as if we wake up at 60 and the body has quietly decided to betray us. But the truth is more subtle and in many ways more hopeful. The human body is always communicating. It speaks through sensation, through effort, through small changes in how movement feels. After 60, those messages simply become a little louder, a little more frequent, and a little harder to ignore. What we often label as normal aging is, in reality, a collection of signals asking for attention rather than resignation. Strength does not disappear overnight. Balance does not vanish in a single moment. Independence fades slowly, almost politely, through everyday experiences that seem insignificant on their own. The slight stiffness when getting out of bed, the extra concentration needed to lift a grocery bag, the pause before stepping off a curb or walking on uneven ground. These moments are not failures of the body, they are adaptations. They reflect muscles that are no longer being asked to work as often or as deliberately as they once were. Biology is efficient in that way. What we do not use, the body gradually de-emphasizes, not out of malice, but out of conservation. Muscle tissue, especially after the 6th decade of life, responds very clearly to how it is treated. Cells that once received frequent signals to contract, stabilize, and support joints begin to receive fewer of those signals as daily movement becomes more cautious or repetitive. Over time, this leads to a measurable reduction in muscle mass and strength. Scientists have observed that adults over 60 may lose a small but meaningful percentage of muscle each year if no corrective action is taken. That loss does not only affect appearance or athletic ability. It changes how force is absorbed by joints, how posture is maintained, and how confident the nervous system feels when the body is challenged. Pain often enters the picture here, and pain has a way of distorting our understanding. We assume pain means damage, or that movement must be avoided. But very often, especially in later adulthood, pain is the result of weakness rather than wear. When muscles are not strong enough to support the knees, the hips, the shoulders, or the spine, those structures take on loads they were never meant to manage alone. Movement becomes jerky instead of smooth, rushed instead of controlled. The body compensates, and compensation is exhausting. It drains energy and erodes confidence. Yet the remarkable thing about human physiology is how responsive it remains, even well into later life. Muscle cells do not retire. Nerve pathways do not shut down simply because a birthday has passed. They respond to stimulus at 80 much the same way they did at 40. Only at a slightly different pace. What they require is clarity and consistency. Simple movements, performed with attention and intention, can restore communication between the brain and the body in profound ways. Consider the act of standing up from a chair. It is so ordinary that we rarely think about it, yet it is one of the most complex and revealing movements the body performs. Rising from a seated position requires coordination between the legs, the hips, the trunk, and the nervous system's sense of balance. When this movement is strong, it feels effortless. When it becomes weak, the body begins to negotiate. It rocks forward, uses momentum, recruits the lower back, or relies heavily on the arms. Each of these strategies works in the short term, but over time they increase strain where it is least welcome. From a biological perspective, standing up is a conversation between gravity and muscle force. The body must shift its center of mass forward and upward while maintaining alignment and joint stability. When the muscles of the thighs and hips are engaged properly, they generate force smoothly and predictably. The nervous system trusts the movement. But when those muscles weaken, the nervous system becomes cautious. It seeks speed instead of strength, using momentum to bypass areas it no longer fully trusts. This is where discomfort often begins. Training this movement deliberately does more than build muscle. It restores trust. With each controlled repetition, sensory receptors in the muscles and joints send information back to the brain, confirming that the body can manage the load. Over weeks, this feedback loop strengthens. Movements become quieter, more confident, less effortful. The individual may not think in terms of neurons and muscle fibers, but they feel the result when standing no longer feels like a task to be negotiated. Upper body strength follows a similar pattern, though its decline is sometimes less obvious until it interferes with daily life. Pushing open a heavy door, reaching for an object on a shelf, or stabilizing oneself during a moment of imbalance all rely on coordinated strength through the arms, shoulders, and trunk. When these muscles are underused, posture subtly changes. The shoulders round forward, the chest collapses slightly, and breathing becomes shallower. This posture is not merely aesthetic, it changes how forces are distributed through the spine and how efficiently the body moves. Wall-supported pushing movements offer an elegant solution because they respect the biology of aging joints while still providing meaningful stimulus. They allow the body to work as a single unit, maintaining alignment from head to heel. This integration is crucial. Muscles rarely work in isolation in real life. The body evolved to move as a connected system, where the arms assist the trunk stabilizes the legs, and balance emerges from cooperation rather than effort. Slow, controlled pushing movements engage not only the muscles of the chest and arms, but also the deep stabilizers of the spine and abdomen. The nervous system senses this whole body effort and responds by improving coordination. Over time, posture improves not because it is forced, but because the muscles responsible for maintaining it are once again awake and responsive. Pain often diminishes as the body redistributes load more intelligently. Balance, perhaps more than any other quality, reflects the dialogue between strength and awareness. It is not simply the ability to stand on one leg, it is the nervous system's confidence in the body's ability to respond to change. Each step we take is a controlled fall, caught in time by muscles and reflexes that have practiced this pattern thousands of times. When movement becomes less varied with age, that practice diminishes. The body becomes less certain, and caution increases. Marching movements, performed deliberately and rhythmically, reintroduce this practice in a safe and accessible way. Lifting one leg at a time challenges balance gently, while coordinated arm movement reinforces natural walking patterns. From a cardiovascular standpoint, this kind of activity encourages blood flow, oxygen delivery, and metabolic activity without overwhelming the system. The heart responds positively to regular, moderate challenge, becoming more efficient at delivering resources to working tissues. The connection between movement and brain health is particularly striking here. Coordinated, rhythmic activity stimulates areas of the brain responsible for timing, spatial awareness, and decision-making. This is why simple movements can feel mentally refreshing. They engage attention without stress. They ask the brain to participate actively in the body's actions, reinforcing pathways that support both physical and cognitive resilience. Breathing naturally during movement further enhances this effect. The rhythm of inhalation and exhalation influences heart rate variability, a marker of nervous system balance. When movement and breath are synchronized, the body enters a state that is both alert and calm. This state supports recovery, reduces stress hormones, and improves overall well-being. It is not surprising that people often report improved mood after even brief periods of mindful movement. What ties all of these elements together is consistency. The body does not require heroic effort, it requires regular conversation. Short, frequent sessions of purposeful movement remind muscles, joints, and nerves of their roles. They reinforce patterns that support independence rather than undermine it. Over time, these small investments compound. Standing becomes easier. Reaching feels safer. Walking feels more fluid. Confidence grows not as an abstract belief, but as a lived experience. From a scientific standpoint, This reflects the principle of adaptation. Biological systems adapt to the demands placed upon them. When demands are absent, capacity shrinks. When demands are appropriate and repeated, capacity expands. Age does not negate this principle, it simply changes the context. Recovery may take a bit longer. Progress may feel more subtle. But the direction remains the same. There is also a philosophical dimension to this process. Movement is one of the most direct ways we participate in our own health. It is an expression of agency. Choosing to move, even gently, affirms that the body is still worthy of care and attention. This mindset influences behavior in ways that extend beyond exercise. People who move regularly tend to stand taller, breathe deeper, and approach challenges with greater calm. Importantly, this approach rejects the idea that aging is a passive decline. It reframes later life as a period of refinement, where movement becomes more intentional and more meaningful. Instead of chasing performance, the focus shifts to quality. How smoothly can I rise? How confidently can I step? How easily can I support myself? These questions reflect a deep understanding of what truly matters for daily life. The simplicity of these movements is not a limitation, it is their strength. They mirror the tasks the body performs every day. By training them directly, the body becomes better at life itself. There is no separation between exercise and living. Each repetition is a rehearsal for independence, for dignity, for ease. Over weeks and months, the effects accumulate quietly. Muscle fibers thicken slightly. Neural pathways become more efficient. Joints move through their ranges with less resistance. The individual may notice fewer aches, better sleep, and a renewed sense of capability. These changes are not dramatic in the way of sudden transformations, but they are profound in their impact. Ultimately, the human body is resilient by design. It responds to care with gratitude. Even after decades of adaptation, it remains open to change. When we listen to its signals and respond with thoughtful movement, we engage in a partnership rather than a struggle. Strength becomes less about force and more about harmony. Balance becomes less about fear and more about trust. In this way, simple daily movement becomes a form of quiet science in action. It is an experiment repeated each day, yielding data not in charts or numbers, but in lived experience. The outcome is not merely stronger muscles, but a deeper connection to the body, and a renewed confidence in its ability to carry us through the world, one deliberate movement at a time.